Hey everyone. So, you're building something with AI, right? There's one decision you're going to have to make that is absolutely critical: picking the right vector database. And believe me, if you get this wrong, it can really mess up your whole project. Let's kick things off with a problem that I'm pretty sure you've run into before.
Okay, picture this. You've poured hours into building this amazing AI app. It feels brilliant, it's powerful, and then it just goes off the rails and makes something up. You know what I'm talking about. It spits out an answer about a company policy that's like 3 years old, or it just confidently invents a fact out of thin air. So frustrating. Why? Why does it do that?
Well, the simple answer is large language models all by themselves are kind of like geniuses with really bad amnesia. Seriously. They have no long-term memory, they can't remember what you talked about 5 minutes ago, they definitely can't access your company's latest private info, and when they hit a wall, they just hallucinate. They make stuff up. That is the exact problem we're here to solve today.
And what's the solution? Well, it's a piece of tech that's quickly become the absolute bedrock for modern AI. We're talking about the vector database. The easiest way to think about it? It's like giving your AI a long-term memory, a semantic memory. It's what gives it the context, the facts, that it desperately needs to stop making things up and actually be useful.
So, what in the world is a vector database? Let's break it down. At its core, it's a special kind of system that's designed to handle one thing really, really well: vector embeddings. Now you're probably asking, okay, what are vector embeddings? Don't worry, it's not that complicated. They're basically just long lists of numbers that AI models create to capture the meaning of stuff, like text or images or even sound. And the cool part is, the closer two of these number lists are to each other, the more similar their meanings are. Simple as that.
And this is where it gets really interesting. When you compare it to what we're used to, a traditional database like a SQL database, it's like a super literal librarian. You have to ask for a book by its exact title or author. It's all about exact matches. A vector database, on the other hand, is like a librarian who actually understands what you're trying to find. You can say, hey, find me stuff about payment problems or contract disputes, and it gets the concept. It'll pull up the right documents even if they don't use those exact keywords. It's searching for meaning, not just words.
This whole search by meaning thing, that's the magic behind what we call Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG. It's a game changer. Here's how it works. First, we take all of our documents, our private data, and we feed them into the system. They get chopped up into little pieces and turned into those vector embeddings we talked about. Then, when a user asks a question, we turn their question into a vector too. The database then does its thing. It zips through and finds the chunks of text whose meaning is most similar to the question. And for the final step, we hand those relevant chunks of text to the LLM and say, here's your context. This grounds the AI in reality. It forces it to use our facts, which pretty much kills the hallucinations.
Okay, so now you get it. Vector databases are awesome. But here's the thing. The market for them is just exploding right now. And picking the right one is a huge deal. So let's dive in and meet the main contenders you should have on your radar.
And I am not kidding when I say exploding. Check out this number. The market is projected to hit, $10.6 billion by 2032. This isn't just some passing trend, folks. This is the new backbone for the entire AI industry. This stuff matters a lot.
So here's a quick rundown of the big players. You've got your cloud-native services like Pinecone, which are super easy to get started with. Then there are the open-source powerhouses like Qdrant, really focused on performance. Weaviate is packed with all sorts of features. And of course, you have the big, established players like MongoDB getting in on the action. As you can see, each one has its own vibe, its own strengths, and is really built for different kinds of jobs.
To make this a little easier, let's just group them into archetypes. Think of Pinecone as the performance leader. It's managed for you and it's fast. Weaviate is the feature-rich option. It's got all the bells and whistles. Qdrant, that's the efficiency champion, built-in Rust for raw speed. Chroma is definitely the developer favorite for just getting a prototype up and running fast. Milvus is the enterprise solution for when you need to scale, like really scale. And MongoDB is the integration winner. If you're already using it, it's kind of a no-brainer. So the real question you have to ask yourself is, which one of these sounds like what I need?
And that question brings us to maybe the biggest strategic decision you have to make. It's a real fork in the road. Do you go with a fully managed service, a SaaS product where they handle everything? Or do you roll up your sleeves and host it yourself? It's the classic showdown, SaaS versus self-hosted.
So why is this such a big deal? Well, in a word, cost. Look, a managed service like Pinecone is fantastic for getting off the ground. It's fast, it's easy, your first bill might be, a couple of bucks, but
what happens when your app takes off? That bill can absolutely explode. And this number right here, $2,847, that's a real monthly bill for a startup whose chatbot got popular. Ouch. That is a surprise you do not want.
All right, let's actually run the numbers. What we've got here is a break-even analysis. We're comparing the estimated monthly cost of Pinecone with a fixed-cost, self-hosted option on something like OpenMetal. Now, look at the top. When you're just starting out, with low usage, Pinecone is the clear winner, no question. It's cheaper. But watch what happens as we go down the table, as your queries and your data start to grow. You hit this break-even point, and then, once you cross that line, the whole equation just flips. Suddenly, self-hosting is the much smarter financial move.
So here is the key takeaway, the big rule of thumb. That tipping point, it usually happens somewhere around 60 to 80 million queries a month. Think about that. Once you're past that point, every single new query on a SaaS platform costs you more money. But on your own self-hosted setup, it's a fixed cost. It's already paid for. And that gives you predictable spending, which, if you're trying to scale a business, is just gold.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about the tech, the players, the costs. So how do you actually pull the trigger and make a choice? Let's put it all together in a simple decision framework, something you can actually use. Okay, let's just go down the list. Number 1, scale. Ask yourself, are you just building a prototype? Then something simple like Chroma is probably perfect. Or are you building a massive enterprise application? Then you need to be looking at something like Milvus. 2, budget. Can your business handle a bill that changes every month? Or do you need that predictable fixed cost of a self-hosted solution? 3, your team. And be really honest with yourself on this one. Do you have the DevOps people to manage your own infrastructure? If the answer is no, then a managed service is your friend. And finally, your product needs. How important is sub-millisecond speed? How much do you value a simple API that's easy to work with? Answering these questions will point you in the right direction.
At the end of the day, making this decision is really about understanding that this isn't some niche optional tool anymore. I mean, look at this quote. It's spot on. This is the backbone of the next generation of AI applications. So the choice you make here isn't just a technical one. It has huge long-term consequences for your product's performance, your costs, and your ability to scale down the road.
So let's wrap this up. I just want to leave you with this one thought. The memory you give your AI, that ability for it to be accurate, to be relevant, to actually be helpful, that is your new competitive advantage. It's everything. And the database you choose to power that memory, well, that might be one of the most important decisions you make. So the question is, are you going to choose the right one?